This lesson continues our study of functions. The topic we're going to look at in this is composing functions. Composing functions means the following. Suppose you have two functions, f of x and g of x. To compose them means to consider this, f of g of x, which means you're going to plug into the f rule not just an x, but the g of x rule, which is x minus 7. So x minus 7. Okay, and then that's what we've been working on already. You now take x minus 7 as your input for the f rule. So the f rule says you're going to do 3 times the input, which is now x minus 7, and then you're going to add 4. Or 3x minus 21, using the distributive property, plus 4. And then combining like terms, I get 3x negative 21 plus 4 is minus 17. So f of g of x equals 3x minus 17. Now, suppose I asked you to find f of g of a specific number, like 5. Okay, well, one way of doing it would be to plug 5 in as your input for g. So g says subtract 7, so f of 5 minus 7. And then 5 minus 7 is negative 2. So I have to plug negative 2 into the f rule, which says triple it and add 4. So triple the input and add 4. Or negative 6 plus 4, or negative 2. Okay, now, another way we could have done this is by plugging the input 5 into this rule that we found when we composed them just with x's. So, 3 times 5 minus 17, or 15 minus 17, or negative 2. Again, that's what should have happened. We should have gotten the same thing. Okay, let's look at another example. This one will involve more steps, largely because we've got a quadratic function with an x squared. So let's look at f of g of x in this case. Okay, so that means we're going to take as our input for the f, we're going to take 2x minus 1. We're going to take our g rule and make it our input. And then the f rule says you take your input, in this case 2x minus 1, you square it, input squared, plus 7 times your input, which again is 2x minus 1. Then there's algebra. So remember how to square a binomial. You square the first term, you take twice the product. 2x times negative 1 is negative 2x. I double that, negative 4x. And then negative 1 squared is 1. Then I'm going to distribute, oops, that's a little bit too high up. Oops, went back too far. So that was minus 4x plus 1. Then I'm going to distribute the 7, and I get 14x minus 7. Combining like terms gives me 4x squared, a minus 4x, and a positive 14 makes plus 10x, and a 1 minus 7 makes negative 6. Okay, now, over here, I want to look at what happens when I compose them in the reverse direction, g of f of x. Okay, so that means I'm going to plug in as my input x squared plus 7x to my g rule. Okay, and then the g rule says you double the input. So this time my input is x squared plus 7x, and then you subtract 1. Double the input, subtract 1. Okay, again, there's some algebra to do to clean this up. 2x squared plus 14x minus 1, and that's it. Can't do any more than that. It's important to notice that our answers were different. When we composed f of g of x, we got that, whereas when we did it in the other order, g of f of x, we got that. And in general, you should not expect the same result when you compose in different directions. Okay, For your next homework, I'm giving you two functions, actually three functions, and asking you to compose them, f of g of x, g of f of x, f of h of x, and h of g of x. Now, you might have to think a little when you get to the ones that involve h of x, because the rule for h of x is kind of different. It's what we call a constant function, and essentially anything you plug into the h rule is 4. So h of 1 would be 4, h of 7 would be 4. Anything you plug in, it doesn't matter. The output is always 4. Okay, I think you'll be able to figure that out, and we'll go over that next time.